He wrote me a letter and he called me every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. at my house for a year. And he kept telling me he wanted me to come to the University of Houston and play on the national championship team.
I mean, all I can do is put the best record I could put up on the board. There was only one person I could control because I could never control anybody else. I just do the best I can.
He was a friend. He was a friend. He's always been one of my heroes. You know, I looked up to him. I think he and I would have a hell of a duel.
How good was Steve Elkington, really, if Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino are the two guys you see in that thumbnail? If you clicked on this to hear what the biggest names in golf said about his swing, you are in exactly the right place. The wild part is that Steve Elkington has somehow become weirdly overlooked in golf history, even though the legends lined up to praise him. Jack Nicklaus said his swing was the one he would want to copy. Lee Trevino mentored him and called him one of the greatest ball strikers alive. Nick Faldo, Tiger Woods, and the ghost of Ben Hogan's legacy all pointed back to Elkington as the blueprint. Yet ask most casual fans today and they might not remember his name. He won a major, won the Players twice, spent over 50 weeks in the world top 10, and somehow still feels underrated. But here's the truth. The legends knew what they were talking about. Elkington was not just good, he was exceptional. His swing was a masterclass in precision and control that made Nicklaus to Woods take notes. Before we jump in, hit that hype button right now if you love this story. Let everyone know you think this deserves to blow up, because we are diving into seriously deep golf instruction, and you want more content like this. Now let's start with number 6, and this one takes us into the deep philosophy of golf. Ben Hogan is dead, but his legacy lives on through Elkington. Elkington later created Secret in the Dirt with Mike Maves and Jackie Burke Jr. to deconstruct Hogan's secrets. Maves argued that Hogan's secret was about footwork and ground interaction, what they called the dirt. The centerpiece was the lateral slide. Before you rotate your hips, slide them toward the target. This prevents spinning out and creates a shallow approach angle so you compress the ball. Elkington and Maves noticed that instructors had created a nation of hip spinners by misinterpreting Hogan. The real secret was that Hogan slid into his lead side before rotating, not the other way around. Many Hogan experts agree Elkington is the closest modern successor because he understood how the body uses the ground and transfers that energy up through the club. Number 5 is Tiger Woods, and this shows how even the most dominant golfer of an era learned from Elkington. When Tiger came up in the late 1990s, his coach Butch Harmon used Elkington's mechanical positions as a reference point. They were not making Tiger swing like Elkington, but they studied how Elkington kept his arms and chest connected as one unit. This connection was so effective that Tiger's team paid close attention to the relationship between his lead arm and his sternum, keeping the club in front of the body. This matters because Tiger Woods, who won 20 major championships, looked at what Elkington was doing and said it was worth studying. That is worth building into my foundation. Elkington had such a clear blueprint that even the most talented player of that generation borrowed from it. Number 4 is Peter Thomson, and this goes deep into the philosophy of longevity. Peter Thomson was a 5-time Open champion and mentor to Elkington. Thomson told him that the key to longevity was great hands and arms. Thomson knew that when you get older, your body loses flexibility, but a well-trained arm swing stays effective forever. So Elkington built his swing around hands and arms as the real engine, with the body's pivot as support. This meant focusing on small muscles for precision, allowing the club head to close naturally. This shift away from big muscle obsession paid off. Elkington competed at a high level well into his 40s because his swing did not depend on explosive athleticism. It depended on timing and feel and technical skill that gets better with practice. Number 3 is Nick Faldo. And this is where we get into the technical language that defines elite ball striking. Faldo and Elkington were kindred spirits. They both believed in what Faldo called a connected swing. Connection means the arms and chest work together throughout the rotational sequence. If your upper left arm separates from your chest during the backswing, the swing becomes steeper and harder to time. Both understood that keeping everything as one unit meant extreme accuracy was possible. Elkington's connection led directly to him winning the Varden Trophy in 1995 for lowest scoring average. Faldo described Elkington's swing as quiet hips, shoulder-led rotation, and accuracy over distance. When Faldo gave Elkington that respect, it meant everything. They shared the belief that the modern swing does not have to be about hitting it far. It has to be about controlling where the ball goes and repeating the motion over and over. Number 2 is Lee Trevino, and Trevino was more than just a fan of Elkington's swing. He was a mentor and friend. Trevino regarded Elkington as one of the greatest ball strikers in history. Trevino's influence on Elkington is most visible in Elkington's ability to control ball flight in all conditions, whether wind, rain, or any pressure situation. Trevino taught Elkington the reliable cut, a controlled fade you produce by angling your feet and shoulders slightly open and moving the ball forward. This shot shape is what separates elite strikers from everyone else because it gives a predictable finishing point and maximum control over spin. Trevino also gave Elkington something else, a competitive mindset. Trevino defined pressure not as a tournament lead, but as playing for $10 a hole when you only have $5 in your pocket. That scrapper mentality, combined with Elkington's technical polish, made him a formidable match play opponent and a staple of the early President's Cup teams. Trevino showed Elkington that great technique without mental toughness is just pretty golf. But great technique with pressure-tested confidence is what wins championships. Number 1, and we are back to the legend himself, Jack Nicklaus. Nicklaus once famously stated that Elkington's swing was the one he would most want to emulate if he were starting over. That is not a casual compliment. That is the greatest golfer to ever play the game looking at Elkington and saying, "Your technique is what I would build from the ground up." Nicklaus praised Elkington's rhythm, his balance, and the absence of extra or extraneous movement. When you watch Elkington swing, there are no wasted motions. Nothing jerky, nothing forced. Everything is connected and efficient. Nicklaus understood that Elkington's technique was built on skeletal alignment and natural leverage rather than explosive muscular effort. In other words, it was the kind of swing that works for normal people, not just genetic athletes with superhuman flexibility. Nicklaus was saying that Elkington had figured out something fundamental about how to swing a golf club efficiently, and that transcended size and power and athleticism. It was pure technique. It was architecture. It was the blueprint that everyone should study. Now we have to talk about the moment that proved all of this praise was not just talk, it was absolute truth. It was 1995, August, at Riviera Country Club, one of the most difficult courses in golf, a place known as Hogan's Alley because Ben Hogan loved it and dominated there. The PGA Championship is the real major, and Elkington was going to win it in a way that nobody has forgotten. Going into the final round, Elkington was 6 shots behind Ernie Els. Let me be clear about what that means. Els was not just leading. He had set the pace through 3 rounds with a 54-hole total of a 19.7, which was the lowest ever recorded in a major at that time. Elkington was not the statistical favorite to win. Nobody was picking him on Sunday morning. He was an afterthought. His recent history was clouded by major shoulder and sinus surgeries that left him questioning whether he could even compete. He had doubts, but on Sunday, he shot a 6-4, a 7 under par round that was one of the most significant closing performances in major championship history. It was not just great, it was a record, the lowest final round in the history of that tournament. Then he forced a playoff with Colin Montgomery. In sudden death on 18, Elkington hit an 8-iron and sank a 20-foot birdie putt. He did not just win, he did it under the worst pressure coming from behind, after surgeries, after doubts. Els shot a 72 on Sunday. Elkington shot a 64. That is the difference between good and great under pressure. That is what the legends saw when they talked about his swing being a blueprint. It was not theory, it was proven under extreme conditions. What made his swing so repeatable and so effective comes down to some very specific setup and structural foundations that Elkington was obsessive about. Elkington's swing begins at address, and at address, he was incredibly specific about his structure and positioning. His trail arm, the right arm, was noticeably bent and tucked below his lead arm, which naturally positioned his trail shoulder below his lead shoulder. This creates what he called a fixed impact position right from the start, which makes it significantly easier to return the club to a square and powerful position when you hit the ball. He also emphasized something that most players ignore, a constant awareness of the shaft and the club face throughout the motion. When he was playing his best, he was not thinking about mechanical cues and positions. He was thinking about hitting shots and maintaining a tactile feel for where the club was pointed at all times. This awareness prevented the common trap of overthinking mechanics during a competitive round when pressure is highest. His swing philosophy was always hit shots, not swing swings. Get out of your own head and focus on the target and the feel of the club. The drills he used to teach this to other players are surprisingly simple but incredibly effective. The driver off the knees drill forces you to maintain a consistent spine angle and rotate your upper body correctly. If you sway or tilt or let your hips spin, you miss completely. This teaches you that power comes from a centered pivot and efficient arm swing, not aggressive leg drive. The alignment stick shaping drill puts a stick 10 yards ahead on the target line, and then you practice shaping shots around it, hitting draws and cuts. This focuses your mind on the feel in your hands and the orientation of the club face instead of mechanical thoughts. The glove under armpit drill prevents your lead arm from separating from your chest, ensuring your body and arms work together as one unit. This is not about trying to hit it farther. This is about building foundational stability for elite ball striking that lasts your entire career. On the short game side, Elkington's chipping was built on a specific structure. 60% of weight on the front foot to encourage a downward strike. Open stance so the arms track the target more easily. Light grip pressure using the left arm for control and the right fingertips for precision and touch. Club selection that lands the ball safely and lets it roll like a putt. For putting, Elkington worked with specialists like Dr. Craig Farnsworth and utilized techniques like aim point. His success on the greens, especially that 20-footer to win the 1995 PGA, was the result of a pre-shot routine so ingrained that pressure could not disrupt it. The ball does not know what the putt means, so if you have a routine that works, you execute the same stroke whether you are on the practice green or the final hole of a major. Throughout his career, Elkington proved that his swing philosophy was not just theory, it was backed by measurable results and competitive success. He spent over 50 weeks inside the world top 10, which demonstrates remarkable consistency at the highest levels of professional golf. He won the Players' Championship twice in 1991 and 1997, making him one of only 5 two-time winners at that elite event. That validates the accuracy over distance philosophy in a major way. He was a foundational member of the international team in the President's Cup, playing in the first 4 editions of the event. He won the Vardon Trophy in 1995 for lowest scoring average on the PGA Tour, which is the ultimate validation that his swing architecture worked under all conditions. These are not lucky moments or flukes. These are patterns of consistency built on a sound technical foundation. The secret in the dirt platform that Elkington created with Mike Maves and Jackie Burke Jr. was really about making all of this accessible. For decades, golf instruction had been about mystery and secrecy and individual teachers guarding their secrets. Elkington said, no. Let's break this down. Let's explain how the pressure moves from one foot to the other. Let's talk about the lateral slide in the sequence. Let's decode what Hogan understood and what Faldo understood and what Thompson understood. And let's show people that this is not magic. It is mechanics. It is biomechanics. In the early 2010s, Elkington was discussing concepts like pressure versus weight, and the center of pressure before those terms were mainstream in golf instruction. He understood that pressure should move from the lead foot to the trail foot during the backswing and then explode back to the lead foot to start the downswing. But the center of mass of your actual body should stay relatively stable to prevent swaying. This bracing of pressure creates ground force organically without violent jumping motions. You pull the club with your arms while your body rotates around your spine, just like throwing or punching. The efficiency comes from energy transfer up the kinetic chain, from the legs to the pelvis to the core to the shoulders to the club. When you step back from all of this, when you look at the consensus from Nicklaus and Trevino and Faldo and Thompson and Tiger Woods, when you see the record at Riviera 1995, when you study the drills and the structure and the philosophy, one thing becomes absolutely clear. Steve Elkington created a swing that was a blueprint. Not a blueprint just for him, but a blueprint for anyone who wants to understand what great ball striking looks like. His swing represented a pinnacle of mechanical elegance and philosophical depth. He proved that you do not need to be the biggest, or the most athletic, or the most explosive to win major championships. You need balance. You need rhythm. You need structural integrity. You need to understand how your body and your club work together. You need to train your hands and arms as your primary engine. You need to respect the ground and the grip and the relationship between your arms and your chest. And here's why he still matters now and remains truly important. Modern golf has gotten caught up in high torque swings and extreme flexibility demands and injury-prone trends that break bodies down over time. Elkington's paradigm offers a timeless alternative. His swing gets more repeatable the older you get. His swing does not depend on youth. His swing is built to last. The fundamentals that made Steve Elkington great, balance and rhythm and structural integrity, those are not going to change. They are as constant as the dirt from which they were built. That is why every instructor worth their salt still talks about connection. That is why Tiger Woods learned from him. That is why Nicklaus said what he said. Steve Elkington was not just a great golfer. He was a guardian of the game's mechanical soul, and his swing is still the blueprint anyone should study if they want to understand how to hit a golf ball the right way.